In this week's Parasha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabenu to tell Aharon, his brother, to hit the sea to bring makat dam, and then makat tzfardea. And then he also told Moshe Rabenu to tell Aharon to take from the sand and to throw it up into the sky, and there should be kinim, lice. And the rest of the makot, Moshe Rabenu did himself. And the question comes up, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu tell Moshe Rabenu to have Aharon do the first 3 makot? And the remaining makot, Moshe Rabenu did the action that caused the makat to come, that caused the plague to come. The Chachamim tell us for 2 reasons. One, because when Moshe was born, his mother put him in a basket, and he was on the river, and she put him in the river, and the water saved him. He had to have הכרת הטוב to the water. He has to recognize the favor, the kindness that the river did for him, and therefore he has to return the favor that he cannot hit the water. You have to return the favor. It's called הכרת הטוב. And the sand, the sand did him a favor. In last week's Parasha, Moshe Rabenu came out to see his brothers working in Mitzrayim. And he saw an Egyptian, a Mitzri, hitting a Jewish person. So what did Moshe Rabenu do? He said Hashem Kodesh, and he killed the Mitzri. Now what is he going to do? Where's he going to hide this Mitzri? So what did he do? He immediately buried him. The sand was able to cover up for what he did. He could have got punished for it. He actually was chased out of Mitzrayim because of that. So since the ground helped him, he needed the ground to help him right now, to help him bury this Mitzri, to cover him up. He owed the ground a favor. He owed הכרת הטוב. When somebody does somebody a favor, opens a door, automatically we owe this person a הכרת הטוב. Not only a thank you. Later, when he walks by, we have to open the door back for him. It's called הכרת הטוב. In last week's Parasha, the Torah, when it starts off the She'ibud of Mitzrayim, when the Bnei Israel were just starting, when Paro just realized that he has to enslave Bnei Israel, the Torah says, "Vayakom melech hadash al Mitzrayim, asher lo yada et Yosef." The Midrash says, what do you mean, lo yada? It's possible. How does it mean he doesn't know Yosef? Is it possible to not know who Yosef was? Yosef was the most famous person in Mitzrayim for generations. Is it possible that you would not know who Yosef was? He saved Mitzrayim. Paro was the wealthiest king on the planet. Every piece of land, besides for what the priests of Mitzrayim, every single piece of land belonged to Paro. Every dollar belonged to Paro. Everything belonged to Paro, including the Egyptians themselves. They were all slaves to Paro, because they sold themselves and gave every piece of land and everything that they owned to Paro in return for food during the famine. Is it possible to forget who Yosef was? It's impossible. He was part of Mitzrayim, was Yosef. There was nothing you could do. So how could it be? Says the Midrash, because he was kofeh tova, kfui tova. The Midrash says, "Asher lo yada et Yosef." He didn't recognize Yosef. He didn't recognize all his favors, all his things that he did for Mitzrayim. He forgot them. He ignored them. V'sofo, and he's going to end up being kofer in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's going to end up saying, I don't know who Hashem. Mi Hashem, lo yadati. I don't know who Hashem is. I have no idea who Hashem is. Why? if somebody does somebody a big favor, you have to be kind, show him back a good favor. הכרת הטוב. But if somebody does somebody a favor and someone's a kfui tova, he's not going to return the favor. If someone's going to knock at his door and tell him, listen, you remember I helped you shovel, would you be able to help me shovel? It was just a big snowstorm. So he says, you help me shovel? The only way for a person to be able to, with a straight face, tell somebody, no, I cannot help you, I won't help you, even though you helped me, is if he denies the fact that the guy helped him. It's impossible. So I don't know who you are. Because nobody's conscience would allow him to just say, listen, I know you helped me, okay, now go figure it out yourself. There's nobody in the world who's capable of doing that. The only way of denying the kindness that was done to us, of not returning a favor, is by denying it ever happened. Asher lo yada'et Yosef, he didn't know who Yosef was. When the Bnei Israel told him, how can you enslave us? Look at the Yosef, look what Yosef did for you. Who was Yosef? I don't remember him. Asher lo yada'et Yosef. Of course he knew who he was. The only way for Pa'ol was to deny it. What's the problem? We know that everything that happens to us is through a messenger of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Something good happens, who sent that goodness to us? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, כל מי שכופר בטובתו של חברו, סופו לכפור ככופר בהקדוש ברוך הוא. The Gemara says anybody who kofir is, he denies the tova, the kindness that his friend did for him, is like he denies the kindness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because at any point that somebody does anything for us, the reason why that good thing happens is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted it to happen for us. If I'm going to deny that kindness and I'll be kofet tova, kfui tova, then it's automatically that I'm denying the kindness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does for us. And that's what Paro, lo yada'et Yosef, he's going to end up saying, lo yada'ti et Hashem. But it comes in levels. A person doesn't necessarily realize that when he's not returning a favor to his friend, it's like not returning to Hashem a favor. Eventually, though, it can build up, like by Paro, and it reached to the level of lo yada'ti et Hashem. I don't even recognize Hashem. How far do we have to take הכרת הטוב? How far do we have to look back and say thank you to somebody who did something nice for us? In last week's Parasha, it says that when Moshe Rabenu came to Midian, he helped Yitro's daughters fight the shepherds that didn't let Yitro's daughters use the well until they were finished. Moshe saw that and he shooed the shepherds away and he let the sheep of Yitro drink first. When the daughters of Yitro came home, they came to their father, and their father Yitro looks at them and says, "You guys are home early. What's going on?" So they said to him, Ish Mitzri Hitzilanu. There was an Egyptian man that saved us. So the question is, why didn't they say Moshe saved us? Seemingly, Ish Mitzri is referring to Moshe. The Chachamim tell us, Ish Mitzri is referring to the Egyptian that Moshe Rabenu killed. That's the reason why Moshe Rabenu is here, and that's the reason why we are now here home early. Which means, even something that was indirect, and that had absolutely no intention of helping us, we have to say thank you. And in this week's parasha we see Moshe Rabenu. It's normal. What else should he have done other than bury the Mitzri in the water, in the ground? You have to say thank you. What else should he have done? His mother put him in the basket on the river. Did he do it himself? No. Does the water is doing its job. Things float on the water. The ground's doing its jobs. Things go, you can cover things with the ground. The ground has feelings. Does the water have feelings? But still, we have to say thank you. Because when we say thank you even to a chair, to a table, we're not gonna. You can't take something a person's gonna throw out his furniture. Don't damage it on the way out. That's the idea. Don't hit the water when you're gonna bring a punishment on Mitzrayim. The water did you a favor. That's the way. If we act like that towards objects, of course we're going to act like that towards human beings. Ben Adam l'chavero, and al achat kama v'chama, we'll be able to say thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and recognize all the wonderful favors that He does for us on a every second basis. There was no question posted for the question of the week, but there was a question of two brothers that inherited a house in Brooklyn. It was a big house, much bigger than your average house in Brooklyn, and they were fighting over the house. They were fighting over the house, and one of the brothers suggested, you know what, maybe let's split the house in half. It's big enough, we can each split it, we'll live in it, it's going to be like a regular Brooklyn-sized house. I'll live in this side, you live in this side, we'll put up a big wall in the middle, and that'll be the end of it. So they go to the Rav, and the question is, what should the Rav tell them? There's a Gemara in Baba Batra, it's a Mishnah in Baba Batra and Daf Yud Aleph. The Mishnah says that En chulkin et hachatzer ad sheyeh ba kedei chalukah. And a bunch of things, the Mishnah lists a bunch of things. You cannot split a courtyard until it has kedei chalukah, enough to split. What is enough to split? The Mishnah says, Daled amot lezeh v'dalet amot lezeh. What does it mean? You need 4 amot, which is approximately 6 feet for this one, and a little bit more than 6 feet. 6 by 6 feet of a courtyard for this partner, and 6 by 6 feet for the other partner. What's the case? 2 partners own a courtyard, and one day one of them says, listen, I want to split, I don't want to share usage. I want to have my own side for myself next to my house, and that's it. And you can't use my side, and I can't use your side. The halakha is, even if the other partner doesn't agree, if it has a certain size, you can force it. What is the required size? The required size is that it should have dalet amot lezeh and dalet amot lezeh. 4 by 4 amot, which is about 6 by 6 feet, 6 1/4 feet for a square, cubic, for both sides. Each one of them has it. Why? Because then it's considered still chatzer. Anything less than that is not anymore a courtyard. The two, in Siman Kuf Ayin Aleph, says, Kol sheshmo alav. His name stays on it. For example, if you take a room also, if you split it, has to be 4 by 4 amot. Each person has to be able to remain with 4 by 4 amot. If you stay 4 by 4 amot, then I still have a room. But let's say it was a little smaller than that. At this point, it's no longer a room. You could call it a closet, some storage space, but it's not a room. The moment it lost its name, its title, you cannot force the split. So now let's come to a case of a house. The Rashba in Tshuva in Siman Taftaf Kuf Yud Aleph says, if we're worried about the name, the title of the place that you're trying to split, a field for example, and if at a certain point, if you cut it too small, you can't call it a field, maybe you can call it a little yard. A field has to be a certain size. So if you're splitting it, and both of them will have something called a field, then you can force the split even if the other partner doesn't agree. But if you can't, you cannot force the split, because it's just, now it changed. It's got a different name. It's called a yard, a lot, not a field. The Rashba says, if we're worried about the name, the title, I'm for sure worried about what its original usage is for. For example, in a house, there's a bathroom. If you split it, it's not a bathroom anymore. What are you going to do? you lost the usage. So you can't say you'll use it for even if it's a humongous size, beautiful. There's some houses that have humongous bathrooms. They could have built a bedroom in there. At the end of the day, you can't split it because there's only one of everything. You lost its usage. A walkway. You can't split the walkway because it's just there for about 1.5 people to walk. So therefore, the tool, B'Shem Harama, says, if they have one walkway, so how are you going to split it? I can't split that. And since I cannot split the walkway in half, because it's not going to be considered a walkway, it's just going to be a little path, a narrow path, then it does not have the option of being split. And therefore, the Bet Yosef brings a Rabbeinu Yerucham that brings a tshuva of the Rashba that says most houses don't have the option of being split. And the Rivash explains, also the Mabit, they explains also. The Rivash in Siman Resh Chaf Zayin, and the Mabit in Siman Resh Ayin Bet, they explain why doesn't a house have splittable? Because we have to meet 2 requirements. One requirement is you got to remain the name, and the other one is you need the usage. When you take a house and you cut it in half, so this person is going to have a living room, this person is going to have a kitchen, this person is going to have a bathroom in the front floor, on the first floor. This one's not going to have, and this one's going to have a coat closet. This one's not going to have, and you can't split every single thing in half, because what's a half a kitchen? What's a half a living room? What's a half a dining room? You can't. Maybe some of the things don't have the right size in order to be considered to split. Therefore, most houses don't split. And based on this, the Rav will tell these brothers, you cannot force the split because you're missing from the requirements. How about if one brother says, listen, we can split it and you will build yourself a kitchen. What's the problem? You'll take from the piping and you'll be able to build yourself a kitchen. There is space for you to build a kitchen. There is space for you to build yourself a living room in that size. What about that? The Bet Yosef brings down a Nimukei Yosef in the name of the Ra'ah. He says, no. The partner can say, I am not interested in spending money. I want to use my house as is. And if you're going to split it, it's going to be inconvenient. And the Bet Yosef agrees to that. Also the Rivash agrees to this. However, the Rama brings down a Tshuvot Maimoniyot. And he says, listen, also Maharam Merutenburg, in Siman Resh Lamed Chet, he says, if money can fix this, and you can build yourself something afterwards, so pay and fix it. And renovate, make yourself available. Don't be so tough. So we have a machloket, the Shulchan Aruch, the Bet Yosef, and the Rama, la halacha. However, Netivot HaMishpat says, the Rama is not, people argue on the Rama, and he says, look, you see there's the Rivash, we have the Nimukei Yosef. So first Faradim, who follow Shulchan Aruch and the Bet Yosef, there's nothing you can do. You can never force the split. For Ashkenazim, there's something called Kimli. What Kimli means, I follow this Rav, you can't force me to do it. In money matters, we can say such a thing. I follow him, and therefore you can't force me. And therefore, since the Netivot HaMishpat argued with the Rama, and he says that you cannot force a split on a house, even though I can fix with money to make it to accommodate my needs, therefore, a guy in Betin will say, no, I'm going to follow the Netivot HaMishpat on this, and you cannot force me to split. And therefore, since the requirements aren't met, I don't want to have to spend the money, I don't have equal usage, I don't have the right dimensions in a house, you cannot force the split.